And our next guest leads right into this because, as Tiki knows, and as most of you know, I'm a devout Yankee fan. Devout. Never wavered. And they were terrible when I was young. Like, honestly, they were bad. But across town, the Mets had this young buck coming up with this explosive athletic windup, throwing gas, this sick curveball. They called it Lord Charles 12. So he dropped off the table. I mean, guys were scared of him. I mean, I'm talking about big league hitters who just had no chance. Charisma, looked great in the uniform, the posters, the billboards. And I loved him, but I had to suppress my love for the guy because he was a Met. But we eventually became a Yankee, won a World Series, as he did with the Mets. Also threw a no-hitter for the Yankees back in 1996 against Seattle. Talking about Dwight Gooden, one of the greatest shows for a couple of years in all the baseball history. Doc, Tiki and Tierney, how you doing, buddy? Welcome to the show. What's happening?
Oh, everything's good. Thank you for the introduction. I appreciate that. You got chills going on my spine. I like that.
Hey, listen, Doc.
Making me look good.
I know. Come on, make you look good. I mean it. And before we talk shop and get into how you doing these days, man? I know you've got a ton of fans out there. We all saw the 30 for 30 with Darryl now a couple of years ago. But how's Dwight Gooden doing day to day? You in a good spot, Doc?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, everything's well. Healthy, feel good. Family's good. Kids are good. As you mentioned, I'm glad the Mets and Yankees are playing better.
Yeah.
I feel good. Everything's
Nice.
well. I look forward to getting back out of the ballpark and spending time with the fans again. And as you mentioned, a couple years ago, I was pretty down. But, with the support of my family and the fans, helped me get through the tough times. And it's good to be back on my feet and just taking a day at a time. And today I feel great. I feel healthy.
That is so good to hear because, everybody cheers for this guy. It's really, there's very few people that everybody cheers for. And take Dwight Gooden and Darryl, Darryl seems to be in a really good place too. These are two guys that, especially in New York, where it's very territorial with the teams, everybody loves these guys.
Yeah, no,
everyone.
And you did the crossover, Doc, and it's a hard one to do, but you didn't. Nobody hated you, just as BT was talking about. Just to start this conversation, you look at where your first team is currently headed. The Mets it feels like there's a different energy about them because of the sale, and we all know the new owner coming in. Do you sense that as well? And have you met the new owner?
You're right. I agree with you. There's a different energy there. The guys are more into. I haven't met the new owner yet. I look forward to meeting Stevie Cohen, and I like what he's doing so far. I like his involvement with the fans and the team. He's down in spring training, and I hear he's having a lot of guys come over to his house to get to know them on a personal level.
Wow.
Normally, you don't see that, but that's good to see. That's the kind of guy the players want to play for, and they know he's going to put them in a position to succeed and do whatever he can to make the organization better. I think he's doing that with the people he's brought in on the baseball side for his scouts and the minor league directors and stuff like that. So I think they're heading in the right direction. And even with Sandy Alderson, the team president, is a good guy to have. So I like the new ownership. I like the players they brought in so far, especially the bullpen. I think the bullpen is doing great. Big improvement from last year. So I definitely think they're heading in the right direction. If they could just stay healthy, I think they could be right there.
And they'll start hitting more. I mean, Lindor hit the big bomb the other night. He'll get his act together. They're going to start making McNeil's a big-time hitter in terms of average, and he hasn't really done much yet, so he's going to come around. We're talking to Dwight Gooden, who won a Cy Young back in the day, a couple of World Series champions, Rookie of the Year, ERA title, could hit as well, hit a couple of bombs. Doc, I was laughing at this because I mentioned McNeil and Lindor. The other night, there, I don't even know if it was a scrap. Who knows what the hell happened in the clubhouse where everybody ran, and then Lindor said that they were, was it a raccoon or a rat? It's so funny the way the attention that story got in the year 2021. I guarantee you don't know this, but back in the day, the Mets actually got into a fight with each other when they were on picture day. Fists were thrown. I mean, you guys regularly fought other teams, but you also had some scraps with yourself. I mean, the difference, Doc, from your era to now, it's like 5 planets apart. It's such a different world.
Oh, it is. It's totally different. And you're right. The teams we had from like 84 to, I would say, 88, we took fight amongst ourselves. We kept it in-house. And obviously we fought against other clubs because back then you had true robberies. And the thing is, there was no fraternizing with players, opposing players on the field. Once you got in the stadium, you couldn't do that. And it was just totally different. So now I think a lot of these guys just change teams so much, whether it's through free agency or trades or what have you. A lot of these guys, they work out together in all season. They have the same agents. But it's just totally different now. what happened the other night between Lindor and McNeil, like you mentioned, obviously, my personal opinion, I'm sure something happened, whether it's a shell match or the shoving match, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
But, these guys, you spend more time with your teammates than you do your families, and these things happen, and it could be a good thing. After that, it could be just coincidence, but both the guys started playing better, started hitting better. So they let a lot of frustration out. And I think that's fine. As long as, you get into your teammates, you hold each other accountable, and nothing seriously, happen. I think it's fine. I think it's good for the teammates, and it builds chemistry.
Yeah, in Doc, we talk about the Mets mainly because their pitching has been so elite for the last few years, and Jacob DeGrom, who BT and I had a conversation about yesterday, leads the way. But for the first time in a while, the expectation is also elevated for this Mets team. We mentioned Stevie Cohen, who bought the franchise. He's very outgoing. He's out front. If fans have an issue, shoot it at him on Twitter. He will respond to you. Like it's a different engagement. And I ask that because in your era, that's what the Mets were like. There was a different engagement. There was an expectation. How long till it takes for that expectation to become reality in your mind for this current Mets team?
That's a great question, and I think that, like you mentioned, with the new owner, being involved with the fans, being involved with the team, and the players that come in, I think once they start winning and build chemistry, what I mean by building chemistry as well, you keep the same core group of guys together for a couple of years, and I think that builds it. And like you said, the expectation is different now, where the last couple of years you're hoping to get a chance to get in the playoff. You're hoping in September you is still in the race, but now it's a situation where you're expected to win. It's in, you expect to get in the playoffs. If not, have a chance to go to the World Series. So with the expectations, I think it's great for the city of New York. It's great for the fans, and then the players have to accept that, challenge. And like you mentioned, with Jacob DeGrom lead the way. Unfortunately, he's down for a couple of starts now, but he's one of the few guys that you can't afford to lose for any long period of time. But it's great to see. But I think with these players, once they build that up and they get it a situation where everybody's treated like a family in there. It's not necessarily them against the world or them against baseball, but you have to separate yourself from the pack and the other guys, and you have to believe that you are the team to beat. And once the guys start believing that, I think they'll be fine. Obviously, success brings confidence. So once they start winning more and playing together a little longer, what I mean by that is players like the core players on the team, Alonso, Conforto, Lindor now, Smith, those guys start playing together more and they learn each other more. I think that would definitely help. But once they start winning more and get to the playoff a couple of times, then I think you'll start seeing where coming together and start really truly believing in the game. Because now, I think the players, and it's just my opinion, I don't know if sure they can do this or not. I don't think they quite believe it yet until they actually do it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that makes sense. I got you. Well, so did Dwight Gooden, one of the all-time names in the game. I mean, Doc, if you watch Doc when he came up, it was a show unlike anything I've ever seen. I mean, Fernando Mania was incredibly hot. And Lincecum for a couple of years when Timmy was taking the mound, the Freak doing his thing, that was nuts. But Dwight Gooden was an artist on the mound, and Doc's with us here on the show. I've always wondered about this, and I mentioned before, I used to, even though a Yankee fan, my dad's an old Brooklyn Dodger fan who watched the Mets all the time. So I watched the Mets as much as I watched the Yankees. Connor's Corner, the whole thing, Doc. I mean, from Stearns and Flynn, I mean, in the late 70s, I've watched Pat Zachary my whole life, right? And the thing that when I think about the modern game, and we talk about spin rate, right? I always wonder what that could have done to your curveball, because watching Doc back in the day, they would call it a Lord Charles. His curveball would drop off the table. It would go from 12 to 6 on the clock, literally boom. Not to mention the mid-90s heat under your hands. And I always wondered if you were chasing spin rate, what could your curveball have been if spin rate was a part of your your pursuit of being a better pitcher? It wasn't like that in the 80s. What would it be? What would it be like, Doc?
Yeah, you're right. And thank you for the kind words. The game has changed so much with all this analytic stuff about spin rate. Velocity is real big now in the game. It's hard to say, but I think a lot of times it can work against you too. And what I mean by that, being a pitcher, you're taught to attack hitters, meaning going with your best stuff until the hitter shows you he can hit it, then you make adjustments. But you're right. They can tell spin rate, and if you really worked on spin rate, because during my time, I only had 2 pitches, fastball, curveball, but I would change speeds with both pitches. In the curveball, I would throw a little slower, and if I had 2 strikes, I'll throw the hard curveball. But if I was taught spin rate, like you said, with the curveball to get that tighter spin, I don't know. Best I could have had, but it has definitely been interesting.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Nobody would have touched him, T. They barely touched him for a couple of years anyway.
I believe that. Let's talk about DeGrom. Jacob DeGrom is one of those players that just he's special, man. His ERA is minuscule right now, and I wonder in your perspective, and also because he's also a Met, have you seen someone who's been as dominant as he has? And it's a shame that the bats just haven't surrounded him enough to make that win-loss record look better, but that doesn't matter, as we all know. As you mentioned, the analytics have dominated. Analytics and statistics will tell you he's elite, man. What do you see when you look at Jacob DeGrom?
Oh, you're right. He's fun to watch, and I mark my calendar watching him now because I'm still a huge baseball fan and obviously a fan of the Mets and DeGrom, and so I got every 5th game marked when he's pitching, so I'm right there watching it if I'm not at the game. But what he's doing and what he's done the last several years is off the charts. I haven't seen anybody do that. And I remember when he won his first Cy Young Award, when I was there, obviously, to present him with the award, and I was saying that this guy's actually getting better. I didn't know he was going to get that much better, but I figured he had room to improve. But this guy seems like each year, and he's in his early 30s, he's getting better and better. And this year, obviously, I haven't seen anything like that. I mean, it's been a short sample size, but still, the numbers he's putting up now, and hopefully he's not out for too long a time, is off the charts. I haven't seen anybody like that consistently do what he's doing with everything like you mentioned besides wins, and that's out of control because the last 3 years the team don't score for him. I mean, this guy with any type of run support at all, I wouldn't say luck, but just a little bit of run support. Not only we're looking at 20 wins, but we're possibly looking at 25 to 30 wins.
I agree.
That he's putting up.
I agree.
Especially this year.
Yeah, he would have had a couple of 25, 26 win seasons. It's insane what they left on the table for that poor guy. Dwight, I always wonder, the hitters from back in your day, guys were embarrassed when they struck out, choked up with 2 strikes. A lot of players try to put a ball in play, go the other way, hit, wherever it's pitched, work with it. And nowadays, guys really don't do that, but almost everybody 1 through 9 could take you deep. Do you think it's easier to pitch now with more home run hitters, but more guys with more holes in their swings, or when you pitched, when fewer guys would take you deep, but it was really tough to put the ball by somebody and ring up the strikeouts? What's tougher to you, Dwight?
You know what? That's a great question because the game has changed so much, and I've thought that myself where you run across fans or like family members and say, man, you might strike out 20 guys today. Yeah, but also, like you just mentioned, the 8th and 9th guy you make one mistake and hit you out of the ballpark as well. I think, personally, in my time, it was more guys, it was like batting average made a big difference, moving guys over made a big difference, in the ball the other way, stealing bases, things like that. It was more that. Where now, you can hit 110, but as long as you have 25 home runs, it's considered a good year. So I think, depending on the type of pitcher, I think in my case, being at that time in my prime, a power pitcher, meaning throwing high velocity fastballs, going high up in the strike zone, I probably have more success now with the strikeouts totals. But I think a guy, say like a Greg Maddux or Tom Glavine, and again, this is just my opinion, guys that then throwing high will probably have more trouble now than they did in our time.
Interesting.
Because now everything's about velocity, opposed to making pitches and changing speeds.
Yeah, no,
that's interesting.
It's crazy how many guys can hit 100 regularly and not even rear back to get there.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell to be notified when we drop fresh content.